Cool. Ooh, let me turn that off. Looks like I am live. No music to start this one. It's gonna be a weird one. I'm gonna try and edit the podcast live. And when I say it's gonna be a weird one, it's gonna be a weird one. Mainly because of the audio setup involved, and I do have a little bit of a fear of putting on headphones while doing this setup. So you've been warned, but we should be okay. But anyway, I have the podcast set up to be edited. What's going on, Scump? How you doing? All right. Cool. So, the reason why things are a little wonky is because I actually have to come out of an output on my interface and then back into an input on the interface in order to get this into OBS because of the way Pro Tools uses the hardware. So if anybody sees what's wrong with there, that's good, but I'll explain if you don't. Audio in and out of the same device, out and then right back in, can cause a feedback loop, which can be very loud. So I don't recommend it. I'm hoping that we're all good. I did test extensively, so I think we'll be okay. But anyway, just to show you what I run through every week to do the podcast. That's last week's podcast on the editing floor, if you will. But I'm going to walk through my steps for this. So typically what I do is I pull Kyle and David's audio into Audacity first. I'll find myself a nice chunk of time where nobody's saying anything. This is just Kyle right now. And I will do noise reduction. We'll get the noise profile for that, which is kind of like background noise. And then if I select everything and do noise reduction again and I hit OK, it will process and it will try and pull out as much background noise as it can. That's useful because we're going to be compressing this fairly heavily. And so the quieter the background noise, the kind of louder we can make his voice without it hissing. We will get a little bit of hiss in it, but it'll be a lot less than if we had just done this without this step. So it's like 33. Ooh, that's gross. Yeah, I'll pass on that one. Yeah, it was thunderstorming here, or at least thundering. I didn't actually go outside to see. So I will export as a wave. I am not near the right folder at all. 299. So old habits die hard. The first couple episodes when I did this, I was just writing BS. And so I would do F for fixed after them. What's going on, Titanium? How you doing, man? I'm not sure what ET is in reference to. So we'll export that as Kyle episode 299 fixed. Oh, was it? Yeah, I think it was actually. I didn't even put two and two together. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Here's David's audio. You can see the difference if I pull Kyle back in. They use the same microphone, but look at the difference. Look how much Kyle adds to his how much oomph he puts in his. David's usually a bit harder to find some silence, but there's a good time right here where he didn't say anything for a while, so we'll grab that. Noise reduction, get noise profile, effect, noise reduction. Okay, let that process. You'll be hearing a mono version that should be summed to mono and not just kept left channel. Once we get into Pro Tools, right now you're not going to hear anything. Oh yeah, I'm sure it will. If they've been calling for it for a while, I don't see how it couldn't, you know what I mean? Alright. So export. Did I just do this already? I did not. So Dave 299. F for fixed again, because old habits die hard. And then we'll head over to Pro Tools. It's weird. I start off in Audacity, I head to Pro Tools, and then I head back to Audacity, and then we export. But anyway, so that's it. I'm actually going to just shrink this for now because we'll use it later. And so here is last week's episode. Like I said, if I hit play, you should be able to hear that. You don't hear that because I need to hit make sure you get the right button. This button. Okay. Now you hear it, right? That's the good volume, right? I don't want to get too loud, to be honest. Yeah. That looks pretty good. So this was last week's. We're obviously not going to edit last week's because it's already edited. But if I do this and I do new, it's going to make us a new one. Kyle episode 299. Me episode 299. And David episode 299. So there we go. All the rest, they just move horizontally. So I don't really save those positions. I used to, but it's the same thing. I just shuttle it back and forth. So why bother? We will pull up this again. I will take David's fixed audio and drop it in his channel. All right, you can't alt tab in this program. I will take my audio and drop it in. And then I'll take Kyle and drop it in. You guys could hear that okay, right?
I'm recording. Kyle.
It looks like you guys can. Yeah, okay. So let's see. This is the tricky part, is lining everything up.
Click I'm recording. Kyle.
I'm recording.
John.
I'm recording.
Okay, here we go. Now I'll play the sound.
Alright, cool. So that is a roughly lining them all up together so that we are at least in the same ballpark as far as talking. We'll refine it a little bit later. You can see I have a marker here for when David comes in. Just roughly line him up with that every day, and that way he comes in at the same time every episode, right on the symbol hit.
All right, welcome.
So,
and another one is
John Berwick, and a third one is
Kyle Bridger.
all right. Everything seems to be in order. So we have this.
What is this first segment?
In and out points. And out points. Out points. And typically what I do with this is I break and I actually grab everything and I pull it forward a little bit to just concrete.
Yes, it is. It is.
You can see instead of him starting after the sound ends, he kind of starts right over the end of the sound, which is nice. Let's make sure some of these line up.
It could be.
Yeah, no, I don't. Who is this for exactly? Yeah. I don't know.
And it's like
Well,
Aren't they all the same?
I
Can't we-
know. I mentioned this to you. I don't. I'm like, this isn't what I
And
came
then-
for.
and- Spectacular. Don't tell anyone.
If you cut and paste all the fire.
Spectacular. Don't tell anyone.
If you cut and paste.
This is 2018 spectacular. Don't tell anyone.
If you cut and paste.
Who's
all
saying
the
don't tell
fireworks-
anyone?
Spectacular. Don't
If
tell
you-
anyone. Oh, this is 2018 spectacular. Don't tell anyone.
Oh, it's David. Oh, weird. It's harder to hear without the headphones on. So this all seems pretty well lined up. No one's really. I mean, people are talking over each other,
It's
but
too much.
It is weird.
that's
that-
because we talked over each other, not because of the lineup or anything. So, next, what I'll find is the back in time, which I think is right here.
We're back, baby.
Oh yeah. And I will grab the back in time prompt for that. Did I beat RimWorld? Not yet. I've just been having a lot of things that I've been playing besides that, or working on other stuff.
Go back, guys. Send us back. Send us back. Send us back.
We're back.
So here's a secret. I always have to change where Kyle is because of the way we record and all that stuff. So
We're back, baby.
I actually determine how well he does.
We're back, baby. We're back, baby.
If I remember, I think he was a little late,
We're back, baby.
but only for the podcast.
We're back, baby.
He usually gets the baby on, but the other stuff he's usually off on. So that's where I usually aim for. But yeah, for the podcast, it doesn't make sense to leave it where it is because when we do it live, I don't always get this cue
Back.
right there. So I end up moving stuff around anyway. So it's just easier to do that, and we all pretend.
Boom.
That's right. Boom.
Boom.
All right.
That was 1, 2. Yeah, all right. That was all the audio prompts we had. Boom. I have a note from David. Let's see. Around 3404, a loud truck went by his window. So 3404 is going to be about 35 on my rig. I don't know if we can hear it.
I don't even know where to start with my.
It'll be sooner than that.
I don't know.
Yeah, like
too well.
yeah.
Can I make the Kyle
I have
boom one of
a
my
lot
sub
to say,
notifications?
You know,
Uh,
this and it
I don't know if he'd like that.
A movie that was made around the era of Blades of Glory.
I didn't
and all
hear
those-
any
all those
trucks.
films that during that time. Like it
Sure.
just it feels dated. It feels in this
It
time
does,
capsule.
Yes.
And for me, I was like, is this a comedy? Like I didn't like I don't know if it was just the mood I was in. I don't know if it was the mood I was in. I didn't laugh once. The songs, which were good production.
I'll double check that later when I have headphones on. And the last bit is just pulling this to the end. This is our outro music, and just making sure that everything lines up at the end.
And for John for getting this episode up on iTunes. Couldn't do it without Alan.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Dual Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.
And that's it. No. That's actually it for the editing. Like that's it. I'm done. I have this set up in such a way that I can really usually get through this pretty quick unless there's a real big problem. What's going on, P7? So I mean that's it as far as positioning things. Now we just have some massaging to do. This is gonna take, actually no, it shouldn't take. It'll take about 5 minutes. So this is bouncing to disk. And so what this is in old school Pro Tools back in the day. You used to, I'm actually going to mute that just in case. You used to have to how can I explain this? So you used to have to play back Pro Tools through buses, so it has internal buses that you can play stuff through, and then record onto a new track in Pro Tools in order to export it, or you had what was called bouncing, which is basically the same thing. It's just it's not done into a track. It's done to a file, and so anything you exported had to be done at real time, more or less. So it used to be worthwhile to make a mix that bounced while you recorded. Now what they have is this offline bounce, and usually what it does is it emulates re-recording it, but at a much faster speed, so it's not real time anymore, which is nice, and it saves to a file. Windows 10 has this weird quirk on me where it's been limited to 10x speed. So typically, instead of it being 60 minutes, it would be 6 minutes to bounce. I have images of my Mac going at like 90 times speed, and like an episode would just be like done. You know what I mean? It would be like 45 seconds or whatever the math turns out to be, and it would just be the episode would be done. So I haven't really put the time into Windows 10 to figure out why it has this limitation. Obviously, I have the processing power to do much more than 10x, but it just hasn't wanted to. But as far as things go from here, I'll explain it while I do it, but I can explain it now while we're waiting for this. I'm going to pull it back into Audacity. I'm going to use a thing called truncate silence, which basically will take all the silences of a certain length and a certain loudness, if you want to call it that, and it'll tighten them up, and that way any pauses or gaps that are in the podcast will get squished down. They won't be removed, but they'll be a little bit quicker. So if there's a moment where two of us are kind of like thinking or you know, waiting for the other one to answer, that kind of gets eliminated. And then I will do a little compression on it, a little bit more compression, because you can see we have some compression on everyone's channel and some gating and some EQing, but we're gonna do some more compression. And then I'll do a normalize at the end, just for good measure. I don't think I need to actually do it, but almost force a habit now. I still do it. So that's what we'll do, and we will emerge with a wave file, which will be our master wave file. From there, I'm going to feed it into a script I wrote that will actually bounce it into, it's like 8 or so different wave files. MP3s of varying quality. And that way, David can choose the appropriately sized ones, you know, because some episodes are longer and some are shorter, so they end up being different file sizes. And he can choose, you know, if we know we're going to do, on the rare occasion, we do 5 episodes in a month, you know, we may aim for a different file size than if we do 2. If we do 2 a month, we'll aim for really big file sizes because we get, you know, whatever certain amount per month that we get. But if we're doing a whole bunch, we'll aim a little bit lower and choose one that has a little bit less quality to it. So I just wrote the script to poop them all out. It's easier than going in and doing, you know, file export MP3 and changing it, blah blah blah. Does the tiny man at the bottom right come with Pro Tools? Yeah, you know, like Clippy in Microsoft Word. He's kind of like that, except he just doesn't know how to use Pro Tools. That's a lie. I know kind of how to use Pro Tools. I have a degree not in Pro Tools, but related to Pro Tools. But I mean, at this point, I mean, you've seen what am I? I've been live for 20 minutes, and maybe I don't know, 8, 9 of those have just been waiting for things to process. Like the amount of work that I normally have to put into a standard episode isn't huge. It's really when things get weird, like somebody coughs, or we have to edit out a segment, or, you know, sometimes when we have a camera or a connection that goes down, I have to edit around somebody commenting on it or something like that, or you know, if a microphone makes a weird noise that isn't in the recording, or even is in the recording, you know, it may involve me editing somebody's words very carefully so that it almost sounds like they're going from one person, you know, and into asking them somebody else a question, when in real life we maybe had a 2 or 3 minute delay or something like that. So that's when things get a little bit weird. But like I said, this time It was only the truck by David's window. I didn't hear it, but I will review it once I have headphones on, and I can re-export all this if I need to. But I figured I was doing this anyway, so I figured why not stream it. I don't plan to make this a regular thing, just because, like I said, with the having to come out of the interface and then back into the interface is a little sketch and is never a good idea. You know what I mean? What's going on, Dr. Nick? So I don't want to make this a thing that I do all the time, you know. But anyway, that was that export. So I'm gonna save real quick, and what I will do is I will pull up that exported file, the scratch file right there. I'll select everything, and like I said, I'm going to do effect, truncate silence right there. So you can see what this looks for is, negative 50 decibels. So any of the quiet spaces that are negative 50 or below, we will end that are at least a quarter of a second. We will shorten down to a quarter of a second. So if it's if it meets this threshold and it's say 0.3 seconds long, it'll shorten that down to 0.25. If it's a 2-second gap, it'll shorten it down to 0.25. It just kind of takes the episode and kind of goes whoop and just makes it a little bit more compact, a little bit, any awkward pauses or things like that just get reduced, you know. So it's a real easy thing, especially if you're doing some kind of spoken word thing and timing is not necessarily super important. Like you're not purposely having a gap of time, you know, like someone saying let's be silent for a certain amount of time or whatever. That's a really easy way to concrete up your audio. Just don't go trying to sync it back to video if you do that, because that will not work. But you can see this cranking away, and then, like I said, we'll do some compression, normalize, and then export, and we'll have our wave. See, you see how much it did. It took off what? Maybe let's see. It is length is 59 minutes. Oops. And it brought it down to 58 minutes basically. So we cut out a minute worth of silence in there, you know. Not bad. And then next we will hit it with the compressor. Basically, if you don't know what a compressor is, imagine you have I get to open up here already. The dumbest thing ever. Imagine you have a waveform, right? And it's a snare drum, and then somebody whispers, and it's a little bit quiet, and then a hammer falls on the floor, and it goes like that, right? Whatever the waveform is. What compression does is it actually squishes the track inward like that. Not necessarily lowering the volume, but it squishes that, and I guess it's kind of lowering the volume. It's kind of hard to like explain. Like, if you look at my compression here, oops, you can see that this green area. Imagine this grid is volume versus volume, so input volume versus output volume, right? And so you can see that little dot moving around. And so for that blue area, every it's kind of similar, yeah. The loudness equalization uses compression, I would assume. So in that little blue area that you see in the middle, for every, I'm going to call them units just for ease of thought, every unit of volume input makes a unit of volume output. In that red area, you can see the slope is different. So every unit of volume input might output like 0.6 volume output. And so what ends up happening is anything that is loud enough to be in that segment, so you can see just the tip of my voice is hitting it, will actually be a little bit quieter than it's supposed to. But everything in that blue area, so everything in that mid-level volume comes through okay. And then that green area, you can see, has a very sharp curve, where anything that's this volume down here it gets zero volume on the output side. So if I turn this off, you can hear the difference in my voice. You can't see that thing going past anymore, but you can hear me breathing. You can hear all those lower volume things that I wasn't doing going away, and that's because I'm gating it, which is kind of the opposite almost of compression in a weird way. It's sort of it's hard to explain that too, but all you have to know is that if I get any louder, so if I start talking louder, like you can hear more energy in my voice, my volume shouldn't really get too much louder, and that's because above a certain volume, every unit of volume I input actually comes out just a little quieter. So it's a weird way to explain it, but what ends up happening is, your hammer drop gets much quieter, but maybe your whispering or whatever doesn't, and so you end up with a little bit of a tighter waveform that can then, if you wanted to, you can raise the volume normally, and so that whisper will sound louder, but that hammer drop might not sound louder. You know what I mean? So if you look at the difference over here, this is what it was before, and then take a look at like the difference. If I zoom in, say the difference between these two areas here, like right here, and then if we do that again, you see everything kind of got louder, but the areas that are louder than the inner areas didn't get as loud. You know what I mean? The inner areas kind of got a little bit louder than that. It's very, I feel like I'm not doing a good job explaining it. Here, let me see if this helps. So here's another curve right here. And so, yeah, here we go. This is a good one. Where is my, no. I can't do it. So basically what you can see here is, this is exactly what I was saying before. This 45 angle right here basically is every, if I put in X amount, I get out X amount more. Whereas up here, you can put in, say the difference between here is 24 decibels. The difference right here is only, what is that, 6? You know what I mean? So between negative 24 and 0, you're really only affecting between like 6 and 0. And there's, because of the way this graph is looking, that's your normal graph, and it doesn't, it makes it seem like, I disagree with how they're graphing this. I kind of wish that this would stay in the corner and that this would, that's why. That's gotta be why, right? No, that's not why. They still graph it that way. I don't know how to really, it didn't fucking, god damn it. It changed my graph. I'm gonna have to go back and look and see what it was. But anyway, I feel like I talked in a big circle and didn't explain anything, but normalize is an easy one to explain. So basically, it scans through everything. It finds the absolute loudest peak, and you say what volume you want that peak to be, and it just changes the volume fader so that the peak is that loudness. So if it's louder than that, it'll make it quieter. If it's quieter than that, it'll make it louder. This is good because sometimes the encoding to MP3 needs a little bit of headroom. So I just make sure I do that to bring it up to a specific volume, and it kind of helps keep our podcast at a sort of specific volume, but that's subjective because if somebody like yells or laughs or whatever, that is now the loudest point rather than somebody talking, so it ends up being a little subjective. But yeah, you can see it got a little bit quieter actually doing that. But export as a wave. This is going to be episode 299. Save that, export that. And so I can actually take this moment to go over this little script I wrote. Look at this. I'm gonna edit this. It looks a little crazy, but it's not too bad. So basically what we do is we ask the user to input something. In this case, we'll ask what file do you want to convert. and we'll store it. And then we'll ask them what episode number is it, and we'll store it. And so then what you can see is we do an FFmpeg command. So we take that input and we're doing a MP3, a stereo MP3 file, and we're outputting it as a 56K file. And then we're pretty much just kind of doing that over and over with different qualities. You can see 128 here and all that, or different bit rates. So it's just a nice little thing. So like I said, we could take the WAV file, put that in here, asking what file we want to convert. We'll say that. We'll say it's episode 299, and you'll see it's going to dump a bunch of MP3 files in here, and it's just going to crank away at them. OBS is not going to like this while I convert, so I am not going to do that right now, but I will delete these because they are seconds long right now. But that's it. After that, I just upload it to a Dropbox for David. So that was a short little, half-hour stream. I didn't really plan on doing anything too crazy, but I don't know if you guys have any specific questions you want to ask. I can try and fill you in on it, but I don't. Obviously, I'm not the best at teaching A and B. I think I slept a total of like 4 hours today, like scattered. So I'm not. How do you become the most popular podcast? If I knew that, I would be the most popular podcaster. So unfortunately, I don't know that answer. I think like a lot of things, it's networking. You know, you asked me first. I think it's networking and getting your stuff out there. Yeah, and unfortunately, there definitely is a right way and a wrong way to do it. I don't think you want to stick that kind of stuff where people aren't asking, but there are definitely people asking. Reply to me with your favorite podcast, blah blah blah, and so that is not a bad place to do stuff like that. But if I do figure out how to make it big, I'll definitely let you all know. We're coming up on episode 300 next Tuesday. So if you're interested in seeing that and seeing some of the surprises that we have, and we'll actually be doing not a retrospective, but we're going to be listening to the first episode that we ever recorded. I was not a host back then. I was in the room, I was recording, but I was not talking. We'll listen to that and react to the changes and how it all panned out. So back in I think it was 2011. Let's see, I do have my first demo that we did somewhere. Where is the first demo? Let's see. There it is, this one. 2011, yeah. Long time ago. But oh well. I don't think I really have anything more. I didn't really think before I went live. It's just like, maybe I should do that. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna let these percolate and upload them. So, hopefully you guys have a good night. I hope you enjoyed the little impromptu stream. Thinking is overrated. Yeah, well, unfortunately, sometimes once you start, you can't stop. But I don't know. Maybe if I could find a better way to do the audio, I would consider doing this more often, where I edit live. But and then you want to see. Let me show you. This is what I do. That's the wrong folder. This is what I do for the video. Let's see. This one's even easier. So this was the episode, I believe. And what I do is I drag it into this folder. You can see that's last week's. And I go on to, I double click this script and it compresses it and uploads it to YouTube for me, and bada bing, bada boom, you know? The only thing it doesn't do is upload to Google Drive for David, which I suspect I should look into it and see if there's a way I can make it do that, because that might be worth my time. But, oh well, I'm out of here. Hopefully you guys have a good night. And, maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I'm hoping I stream tomorrow, but, other events may preoccupy my time. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, you guys have a good one. I'll catch you later. Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video. I know that some of the VODs can get a little bit long, so I do appreciate you sticking around. I'd like to ask real quick, if you have a friend or someone close to you who you think would like a clip or a portion or even the whole stream, please feel free to reach out to them and share this with them. I'm always looking for more respectful people to come hang out and have some fun. If you've already done that or want to help me out some other way, feel free to check out the video description for some other ways you can help support me. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.